Seats. So
Well,
you look
hello,
great.
Ronnie. How are you doing this afternoon or this evening? This evening.
I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting day. I had some conversations. Went to go visit a friend of mine, and just once they found out, well, they were friends with some friends, and it was interesting. The conversation is always interesting when people find out what you're doing and the questions that they have and the stances they take. So I believe it's going to lend something to what we are going to do here. So what we're going to cover
Absolutely.
tonight.
Absolutely. So, as before I do our major introduction, because we are now officially live, I always have to check and make sure that we are showing up where we need to show up at. And so, yeah, let me make sure that YouTube got us live, and they do. And so it's 1 minute in. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome so much to the Ronnie and Yasheka's dating discussion live on YouTube. And if you are visiting us for the first time, please go ahead and leave a comment and let us know that you've been here. And if you are going to leave a comment, make sure that you let authorized StreamYard access to you so that we can see who you are and we will respond to your message. And I am Yasheka Foster, the artist of dating. And I am personally responsible for empowering successful women to figure out what they want in the dating world so that they can work through the obstacles so they can eventually find the love of their life or their life partner. And Ronnie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning to the part of the world that you're tuning in from. My name is Ronnie Walk. I'm a master coach of exceptional relationships, dating, and sex. And again, I'd like to welcome you to Ron Yashika Dating Discussions.
All right, and we will go into our official countdown so that people will know that we're here. And we're off to the count. Okay, we are back, and we're gonna eventually get rid of that little 30-second thing, and it's just a little way. It's like a little commercial. All right,
Yeah.
so for those of you who are tuning in, before we really get to the juicy stuff, the good talk, and we do our introductions, it's like our little commercial, right? We don't have any sponsors just yet. Not doing. We're gonna put that out in the atmosphere. We don't have any sponsors just yet, but when we do, instead of that 30 seconds, you'll see we shouting them out. We'll be shouting out Adam and Eve and everybody else, right? So all right, Rodney. So this one right here, if you guys did not check out last week's video, make sure that you go back and check it out, and you will know how this particular started series started. He said, she said. You guys know in the world of men and women, because like we all like the book once said, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? And so because of that, he says one thing, she says another, she says one thing, he says another. And so what we perceive as being the message from the man, we say it, it comes out a certain way, he hears it a certain way. It's almost like that little game that you played when you were in school where if you give someone a message and you tell it to one person and then you pass it down, and by the time it gets down to like the second or excuse me, the seventh or the eighth person, the whole message has been turned around, right? And so, believe it or not, in relationships, sometimes that's how things really work. And the thing about it is that there's not a lot of people that the message go through. It's just that because we are from two different planets, right? Mars and Venus, we hear things different. We interpret things different, right? It's just the way we're created. And so today, to kick off the series of He Said, She Said, we're going to start off with commitment versus infidelity. Commitment versus infidelity. One says commitment, one says commitment. I'm going to be committed the whole 9 yards. And then somewhere along the line, it gets confused, it gets something, and then somehow infidelity happens, right? But then they say, well, but I love you. And so we're going to talk about that, Ronnie, because I think that this needs to be a conversation, and I need you to bring it. We're going to bring it. We're going to we're going to bring it. But before you get started, what you drinking on tonight, Ronnie?
I am drinking on a little pomegranate juice. This is my little. I'm getting back into this, so I didn't get a chance to get to the other beverage store
Okay.
to get something. So I'm doing pomegranate juice, and to all the gentlemen that are listening in, trust me, there's a lot of great benefits to pomegranate juice. And if you send me an email, I can give you that along with some other juices that'll help. That'll get you right. So,
Okay, okay. Well,
and what are you sipping on? What are you sipping
I'm still drinking on this same bottle of Moscato that's been sitting in my office now for about 3 weeks. And I'm still sipping on it because I just do a little bit of dab whenever I'm in here, just a little something, something. And so I might finish it out. I did. I finished it out. That's the last of it. So this bottle's gonna go in the trash. So this is the last of it.
on?
So
Okay.
next week I'll probably order another a box. One time and this is all kind of off subject, but one time I decided to treat myself, and I had got like a $100 coupon off of some wine store, and so I was able to go on there and pick different wines, and so I think I'm gonna revisit that, and this time I'm gonna buy more white wines, because before, for whatever reason, I bought a lot of red wines, and I'm not really a red wine type of girl. And so I
Okay.
have a lot of those left. So I'm gonna try it again, but I'm gonna try more white wines. And then of course I have my water because I'm gonna get thirsty. So I have a little Moscato and some water. So all right, Ronnie, let's kick this thing off.
Okay. Well, you know what? What I'd like to do, since this is one of your brainchilds, and I give you credit for this is something in the way you phrase it, I think is needed. Let me ask you, Yasheka, and when I'm saying I'm asking you, I'm sure you have more than enough experience and with your particular life, but also in sharing thoughts and conversations with others. What does commitment mean to you?
What does commitment means to me? So commitment means that you are honoring my wishes for our relationship. So you are committed to the process. You are committed to my expectations. You are committed to my feelings. You are committed to the relationship, to the love, to what we're trying to build together. So in terms, that means that you're committed to whatever it means that's going to bring us together and hold us together. So it's almost like, you and then me, we're together. So you're committed to this foundation right here, to this unity, right? Regardless of what this looks like, whether this is, a partner or a spouse, whatever this looks like, we made the decision that we're committed to each other. So that means that if it's something that's going to somehow try to infringe upon this, then you shouldn't have any dealings with it. And so this can be something that's going to cause us harm in any type of way, whether it's a habit, if it's going to, hurt us in some kind of way, whether it's another person, something that you might be doing, if it's going to hurt what we're trying to build, or in our commitment to one another, then you're not honoring the commitment that we've made. That's what I think commitment is.
Okay. And see, the reason I ask that is because in the space of a relationship, commitment, its role in the relationship changed over time. At one time, when we talked about in this space of marriage, it was a woman being chosen for a man for marriage. Now, it wasn't much of her, she didn't have much say in that. And this is something that, when you're talking about family, power, wealth, transference, she had to be committed to this man and to the outcome of what this bonding brought into the space. So love really didn't have anything to do with no romance. And so you were committed to a system. Now, of course, today, things are different. And I ask that because it's interesting how to this day, when you still listen to men explain commitment and the way women explain commitment. Now, women can say, well, Ronnie, I get what you're saying. However, we're not talking in 16, whatever it was, or date was. We're talking about it today.
Right.
But just understand that thought processes do carry down over time.
Mm-hmm.
And even the word commitment will take on a different meaning based on who you talk to, even still today.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have someone who is, although they're in a marriage, what they will explain to you is they're committed to themselves first, or they're committed to their career first. So the commitment's there,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have to ask them, well, if you're going to put something in numerical order, how are they listing it? Is it the marriage? Is it the husband? Is it the career?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the family? Is it to yourself? Again, so that was pretty much kind of not more so just a test, just to see in terms of a gauge, because again, as we're talking, and I'd say this all the time, that the rules of engagement, we're talking about dating and relationships, has changed. And
Mm-hmm.
commitment is a very, very powerful word. So now, when you put infidelity in that mix, if it should come up in this relationship, you will find out that as they dig deeper into why it happened, or the reason they happened, it is not just more so the lack of commitment, but how in their mind, what they were committed to first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. Did anything that I say make any sense to?
I hear you. I,
Okay.
I hear you. I hear you. So my definition of commitment. So you mentioned about the way people categorize it, what comes first, second, third, and that's why I said what I said. When I think of commitment, I think of um, when we're together, anything that's going to make us better together, make us stronger, and if it's going to in any kind of way interrupt this, right? And remember, I said it could be a thing, it could be a habit, it could be a person, so it could be anything. So so that means all those things. It means that okay, if I'm employed, you're employed, or if I make money, you make money, and you jump up and you quit your job for no reason and you don't have a backup plan, or I quit my job for no reason, I don't have a backup plan, then it's infringing on our commitment to make our relationship stronger. So all that plays an effect when I say about the word commitment, right? And that's why I say it's not just about you know um, somebody going out here and being with another person. It's about all the things that encompass us as a couple and that bond, right? But you also mentioned about the infidelity word. I've been married a couple times. That's no secret. And my ex husband told me one time. This is my second ex husband. He told me. He said, at the end of the day, if a man tells you, this is a man telling me this, and I've heard this from more than one man. He said, if a man tells you that he cheated because of something that he wasn't getting from home, at the end of the day, he said it's bullshit. A man cheats, or anybody cheats, because they're greedy. He said that's it. Because I've heard men say, and that's what he said. He said they just want more. That's it. They just want more. They just want something else. They want to try what they can try. They want to see what they can get away with it. Because I've heard people say, well, I felt like my spouse we wasn't really communicating, right? I've heard people say that, and I've asked this question. This is me in coaching with someone or counseling with someone, where they were going through some issues in their relationship, and I asked the question to them because I don't believe in that sugarcoat anything, right? And so I asked them a question when they decided to step out on their marriage. I said, so was that other person providing you with the communication that you needed? Because if you're saying that you were missing communication in your marriage, then how did y'all end up in bed? That person should have just been your person you was communicating with, because if that's all you were missing in your marriage was communication, then how did you end up in bed? And that's the infidelity part. You know what I mean? And so that's how I see it. So I hear people say that about what they're missing in relationships, the commitment versus the infidelity. or what he said versus what she said, or what she said versus what he said. And then they go out here and they do these different things. But at the end of the day, what they're doing is looking for an excuse to validate what they've done instead of saying, you know what, I've done it, and there's no reason for it. Because again, the commitment versus the infidelity, right? Two different things. If you're committed to the bond, then if the infidelity is going to break up that bond, then you're not committed to the bond. You're not committed to what my definition of commitment is. Okay.
Okay. Okay. You know, it's interesting as I listen to um, the reasons people give for infidelity
Mhm.
and the divorce that follows it from time to time. You know, but I've learned in more than one way that some people divorce because they really aren't happy.
Mhm.
Some people divorce because they believe they can be happier.
Mhm.
So it's not more so that they weren't getting all that they wanted in the relationship. Some people, a lot of people tell you their marriage in and of itself is happy. Some people want to try to live a part of their life that they thought they can get back.
Mhm.
So they got what they were asking for in the relationship. So it wasn't more so a case of wanting more. Some of them just feel that there is just something out there. It's just curiosity. And see, curiosity is a powerful, powerful thing. So I get what some people saying, well, Ron, men do it for logical reasons and women do it for emotional reasons. And in 30 years, no, that men do it for emotional reasons as well. Because it all comes down to how it makes them feel. So it's not so that they couldn't get that feeling from home, but again, the curiosity, and some people will risk that, just trying to get something that they're not sure they will get, but they're going to go try. Because sometimes I can't tell you how many times you'll listen to a person who has committed the act of infidelity, and the first thing they'll tell you, "Oh, I love my wife. Oh, I'm happy at home," you know, and then you ask why. Some people then got married out of sense of duty. Maybe it looked good on their resume for certain corporate jobs, and so there was no love there. So they went outside to get the love, but they're still married. So it's an interesting dynamic. However, what I have learned is that sometimes the reasons that men and women commit infidelity is not as broad as many people make it out to be. So it's interesting. Even when you look in the stats, when you see now today that the percentage of women that are stepping out as opposed to men is only separated by 3 or 4%.
Mhm.
Years ago, that number was huge, but years ago, women couldn't do as much. They
Right.
wasn't allowed to. So now, with being able to drive, um, access to damn near everything, pretty much everything that a man had access to now,
Right.
you find as they say, give a woman the keys in a car, you'd
Right.
be surprised at the things that she do. And
Mhm.
so temptation is temptation, whether it's to a man or to a woman. And given that now women are out there doing on damn near as good, or I was going to say as good, but as often as men.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when we talk about, because some people say, "Wow, what does commitment and infidelity? Shouldn't those be two different things?" They are, but they do play a lot into each other, as you so eloquently explained as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And when we think about the commitment aspect of relationship, um, and this is going back to I feel like the beginning of the relationship, and I know we went from 0 to 100, then back down, right?
Right.
And this is like for me, because remember I deal with the dating aspect of relationships, right? And so when I think about the commitment aspect of a relationship, I feel that it's something that you have to really, really, really talk about in the very beginning. right? Because, you know, I've heard conversations where, and I think I've mentioned this on another live that we've done before, where one party thought that they were in a committed relationship, they were in a relationship, and the other party was like, no, we vibing, we've been together for 3 months, but we ain't necessarily monogamous, and they like, well, wait a minute, I thought you was my, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever, and so that is something that, people need to have those conversations, and you just can't assume. You know what I mean? And I think that from the time that you say go, like from this day forward, I don't care what it is that you've done, from this day forward, this is the relationship, right? Regardless of what you've done. And if for whatever reason there was, two people going on at one time in that person's life, you can't bring that. Once you make the decision that you guys are committed to each other, you can't bring any of that into that now committed relationship. You know what I mean? So if this person, if this man and this woman decide that as of today, October the 6th, they're in a committed relationship, I don't care what he or she did on October the 5th, it's totally irrelevant, right? And so if you choose to make October the 6th that day, then you can't be talking about what they did up until 11:59. You know what I'm saying? Talking about what you yesterday I seen you, or yesterday I know last week he was talking. Nope, from that day, because if you didn't have that conversation before and say, what are we doing? How are we moving? Or what kind of relationship is this? Is this monogamous? Is this a committed relationship? Are we still seeing other people? What are we doing? And so it starts from the beginning, and you cannot strong arm a person into being that way. You know what I mean? You can't put pressure on them or put them in a position where you're saying, well, it's either you're going to be with me or I'm out. Give them ultimatums and things like that. You got to have grown people conversations, right? Grown folks conversations to understand that you both, if and see if you both are in the same place, in the same space, same place and space, because if one person is still trying to, sow their roll oats or whatever, then you're going to have a hard time trying to tame, trying to get that person in a committed relationship, because they're still going to be trying to do some things. And then we'll be talking about the word infidelity. You know what I mean? And let me ask you a question, Ron. Do you think that does infidelity, is that a word in a non-marriage? Do you think that's a word in non-marriage?
I do.
You do?
And I do. And only if just because couples that are not married will deem itself. Like, for instance, and see, what you said was very important. And although I'm sure the people tuning in could say they've heard it a million times, we need to communicate, we need to communicate, we need to talk about it, we need to talk. But see, you also said something that's very important, because how many times in your profession, Yasheka, have you had this conversation with couples and one of them says, well, I thought, and those two words right there will tear up on a tangent that was just, it'll go into yelling, cursing, and everything else because someone said I thought.
Situation.
And so when we talk about the word itself, infidelity,
Mm-hmm.
even today I say okay, and I'm asking both the man and the woman, what has to happen for you to say this person committed infidelity in this relationship? Now, if we're talking business and we talk about breach of contract, it could be something as simple as he or she is surfing porn or having a playful banter or flirtatious banter on a chat or whatever. That man or woman can deem that person you're being, that's infidelity to that person. So going back to what you're saying, when you're talking about establishing a committed relationship, you really need to spell it out, what that means to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we're going out the sides of such boundaries, then you're going to term that as being committing an infidelity to the relationship itself. Now, again, there are those relationships where they clearly say there are no rules.
Mhm.
Now, although, you know, rules play a part in some way. We may not say it's a rule, but it technically is a rule. But that's a whole other conversation. But there's more than enough couples who are not married who will tell you that there is infidelity. They would, at least if that's through that definition, they would say, yes, there is an infidelity or cheating or side dude, side chick, call it a different way, but it's going outside the conditions and terms that two people have agreed upon to have if they're moving forward. And for me, I'm talking about people that are moving forward towards marriage. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess when we talk about certain words, I guess that's when people talk about potato, right? Because for me, and I know I'll probably get some pushback from this, but I only see infidelity in a marriage, right? I only see it in a marriage. When you're I don't care if you're life partners, right? If you don't have paperwork that brings you together, here's my thing, because you know as well as I know, I know people who've been married, or excuse me, dating for 30 years, and their loved one died and they were left with nothing. They couldn't even draw their social security, right? So people say that, well, we were together and all this, but yeah, but at the end of the day, if you don't have, like, if ain't no paperwork on them, then those kids come in there and swooped up everything. Like, so, it happens all the time. So for me, I guess, because I've been on both sides of the fence, I think that infidelity only happens in marriages. I think everything else is cheating, right? And I guess that's one of those things where I think that only rich people have mistresses and everybody else have side chicks, right? You know what I mean? Only rich people have mistresses. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. It's the same thing, but a mistress, she has a lifestyle of the wife. So she's very well taken care of usually. At least that's what they display on TV. But everybody else, they got side chicks.
well, yeah, it's funny you say that, but and this is why again I do see what you're saying. So when people say marriage is just a piece of paper, and again, there was a time that I really subscribed to that line of thinking.
Mhm.
But it's deeper than that. And when we're talking about, again, because we're talking marriage, so with marriage and love, well, really, if you really think about it, it's a new concept. Again, if you really look at the history of marriage, it really was something again that I mentioned earlier. We're talking about passing down the legacy and the wealth of two powerful families and things of this nature um, in certain tribes or whatever they may be.
Yeah.
So it was there. So it's a contract
Hmm.
again. So there was a duty. So you were committed to the wishes of each family.
Right.
Love? What are you kidding me? If you wanted love, then you had to go outside of that arrangement.
Right. Right. Right.
Now, as you brought love into marriage,
Hmm.
now we may come up with terms of infidelity. You
Hmm.
know, but without the marriage, yes, we could how we can fight over what you want to call it.
Hmm.
But if you listen to the couples, what they're doing prior to walking down the aisle is creating a model
Yeah.
of what this relationship would look like and trying to gain the traction so that you can say, look, I love you, you love me, there's resources that you have, there's resources that I have, and we're going to come together and we're going to go in this direction.
Right.
Man, you're going to lead because I trust in you and the direction you're looking to take us and
Hmm.
providing a family and a home and bills being paid,
Hmm.
then this is what we're doing. So you're getting the love, you're getting the emotion,
Hmm.
but you're also getting the resources of set. But you want to make sure before you do that this is the right person. So again, going back to what you're saying, and of course that I always say as well, that we want to have these conversations of what that looks like.
Right.
Yasheka, look, if I serve porn, is that cheating? And you're like, oh hell to the yes. And you
Yeah.
say, Ronnie, if I have a work husband, is that cheating? Is that
Yeah.
oh yes it is.
To me, now,
And
you know
again,
what? I'm glad you said that, because that falls into
uh-oh.
a different. Me personally, I feel that. there's a limit, right? There is a limit. You know, I don't need you to have these. Now they're okay. There now we got this new. I won't call it new, but since we've been in the pandemic, a lot of the girls that were in the nightclubs moved to the one thing, the one website that I'm not going to mention their name, but the one thing, they moved their business onto that one thing, right? They were
Yeah,
live.
yeah.
They were live. They were there. You can buy memberships.
I remember. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. There's a difference between that and an old fashioned, VHS tape or you downloaded something on the internet, you know what I mean, and you watched it. To me, those are two different things. That's just my opinion. Because on the new one, this is a little bit more personal because they can talk to these people. They can do private stuff. You know what I mean? They can pay an extra dollar or two and they can do private stuff just for them. And it's very intimate. It can be very intimate, but virtual. So to me, that's a little different. Now, if you're talking about some bone chicken wow wow, if you're talking about some of that with that old music, bone chicken wow wow, don't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about none of that. Or you didn't, you had to fast forward it and rewind it and figure it out. I don't care about none of that. That for me as a woman, that doesn't bother me. I feel like there's levels to it. And it's not something that should be kept a secret. Now, I'm not saying that every time you watch it, you need to tell me about it or anything like that. But like if it's something you're doing every day, then you got a problem. And it's not something I need to help you with. You need to go to some type of clinic now because you got a problem if you're indulging every single day, right? Because now that's a problem. That's an addiction, right? But if you're flipping a, doing a whole Kevin Hart scenario where everybody gone and he just set a whole date for himself and all that, hey, have at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with that because I know how life is, right? I know how life is, and I personally don't see a problem with it. But I know that there are a ton of women out there that do. I hear about them. I know about them, and maybe I was raised by too many men. I don't know. Raised by wolves. I don't know. But I don't have a problem with porn because if I mean, depending on what it is, I might want to watch it. You know what I'm saying? I've never ever popped a flick in myself and watched it by myself. But I'm sure down with watching it with him. You know what I'm saying? I think most of the porn I've ever watched, someone has either sent me a clip and told me check this out, or some guy I was seeing or a guy I was married to, they turned it on and I watched it. But other than that, I'm for it because I feel like hell. That's how we learn anyway. I might learn some new stuff on there. You know what I'm saying? Like depending on what she doing. You know what I mean? Like matter of fact, I remember and this is TMI, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. Years ago, there was when I served when I was in my other capacity in my other life, um I wanted when I retired, I wanted red hair. And anybody that knows me in my personal life knows this about me. And the reason why I wanted red hair because it was this one porn star that her hair was red. And I love the color of her hair. And that's why I wanted red hair was because of her. And she's still around, but come to find out she's doing some crazy stuff now. She's not she didn't got big and she's doing some crazy stuff now. But she's doing some crazy stuff. It's not really porn. It's some fetish shit that she's doing now. But she's still around, and so it was her hair that made me say, I cannot wait till I get out of this because I'm gonna make my hair red. So for like the first 3 years of my new life, my hair was red because of her, because of her. True story, true story.
Well, okay.
Yeah, true
Here is, if I may speak on behalf of some of the women that I've spoken to over the years and having this conversation about porn. And if the number one reason they don't want to have their significant other indulging in that because it's a gateway. Now, there are other reasons too, but they also believe that it starts there and it goes on to something different. Then it expands. If you listen to enough people who have suffered from a porn addiction, you hear stories of that way. It's just like it was drugs or anything else. You started here, you ended up here. Now, there are those who don't believe certain drugs are gateway drugs. Again, that's nothing that I've suffered with. I can only go by what I've been told and what those have shared with me in their journey concerning this space. So, again, it comes back to having these conversations as to what someone's defined as being. Now, mind you, there are those, again, who, if they are born again, they've been delivered, then that's not a space that they want to no longer be in. It really comes down to what one chooses to define it. We can all go back and just read the textbook definition of what infidelity is, what cheating is, or whatever the case may be. For some, they're not as threatening as a virtual as they are of that young, cute secretary at work. Others, it's the same thing because of the way it plays in the man's or woman's mind, because they just figure, given the right time, that person may go on to something else. So again, right or wrong, I always tend to leave that up to the couple and their definition and the boundaries that they set for each other.
Yeah. And like I said, it's to each his own, but I will say this. And I know what you mean when you say gateway, but I had a husband that committed infidelity, and never once did he do it with any of the women that was in those porn flicks. Let's just be clear there. So I feel that there were more beautiful women around him in the world than what he indulged with watching porn. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, all they need, if a person is going to do something, all they need is a reason in their mind and an opportunity and a willing participant. That's it. They don't need an excuse. They don't need no gateway. They don't need nothing. All they need is a reason in their mind, an opportunity, and a willing participant. So that's it. But that's all I have to say about that. But I just think that, sometimes we get caught up in so many things because of our own stuff. And I think we did a video about that one time, before, when we put some of our own stuff onto another person and
Oh, yes, we do that. Yes, we do that. Absolutely.
we make it their issue, when in actuality it's our issue and we're putting it on somebody
Yeah,
else.
we're projecting.
Yeah. And so I think that's what it boils down to, yeah, because for me, I'm just like, because I'm looking at them women and I'm looking at my because I have I'm just a smart aleck anyway, and I'm like, you see what she doing? You can't do nothing with that. Like, you, she wouldn't even know you there. So that's my comeback. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right, right,
because these
right, right.
are professionals. You know what I mean? So, they working. They professionals. I'm talking about the ones in the old time flicks. You know what I mean? And so my thing is, these girls are professionals. You got to come with it. You know what I mean? So that was my thinking. That was my thinking. But I know times has changed. Like I said, there is a difference between that and the modern stuff. But I just don't think, for me, does it really fall into the infidelity portion of a relationship. I guess that will be up to the couple.
I leave that up to, and because I could give my thoughts on it, if I'm going to share them, share with them, the definition of that. But again, the goalpost has now changed. The internet has opened up a whole new world of men and women to indulge in different things with.
Well,
And in terms, even at work, even the terms of work.
Well, we're not providing coaching or counseling to our people that hire us, Ronnie. We're providing a he said, she said to our audience, right? So this is where we blur those lines on this platform, right? And so I'm saying it from a female's perspective. From a female's perspective, maybe that's just what he needs to make him as a deterrent, to make him not do those things, right? Because again, Ronnie, we don't. I don't want to, like, I'm not working this is not I'm not working with a client. I'm not you know coaching or counseling somebody. This is us being raw and out the dark and talking to people to give people advice to help their relationships. You know what I mean? And so when we say we leave it up to the couple, that's not what we're here for. They hire us to do
Yeah,
that.
well, now, if we're talking in a particular space, when we're trying to achieve a particular result, absolutely, I hear what you're saying. You know, in this space, we're just sharing thoughts of our own personal experience as well as the experiences that people will share with us. Because again, we talk to family, friends, we speak to people on the way. So yes,
What do
if
you think? What do you think it is? Do you think that porn is adultery from a man's perspective?
yes,
Okay. Okay. And
yes,
why do you believe that?
well, just to the fact that men hide it. You
Okay. So
know, we're talking. Remember, now, like I said, today, porn is something. You listen. Me growing up as a young boy, if you were visiting friends, that was something that you can go into a convenience store and you see the magazines, popular mechanics,
right,
fishing, guns, but then there was always that section in the back that you couldn't go.
right,
And this was something that you were not allowed to go see, and they had the plastic over it.
right, right.
So you really now you saw what it was, and I don't want to mention the names of the magazines
Right,
because I'm not here trying to get YouTube to
right,
get us strikers. But we knew what those magazines was. Now you're also talking to a native New Yorker.
right. Mm-hmm.
With that being said, in those days, what do you have now? Well, it's more family oriented now. We're talking 42nd Street. You're talking
Mm-hmm.
all of the peep shows. And it's so funny because as a young man coming into the manhood and the curiosity that it piques, we remember when we went back to the magazines, the men hid it in their sock drawer, they had it in their shoebox in the closet. It was something that was hidden that hopefully, or in the garage,
Mm-hmm.
where you didn't want the wife to see.
Right.
So it wasn't just so hiding it from the kids, it was definitely from the wife. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, what, wait, these aren't good enough for you? This
Mm-hmm.
isn't good enough? So now you talk 42nd Street. Now you're in a space where, of course, in the dark is when you go and you hope that no one sees you. And do you think that the people who patronize those places, those men, were single men?
Mm-hmm.
Or were there also married men? And this was in a space where you would come home from work
Mm-hmm.
and the wife asks you, "Hey, dear, how was your day?" "Oh, it's okay. It was a busy day. But then to release some stress, I went down to 42nd Street and saw a couple of peep shows."
Mm-hmm.
No, this was something that men kept to themselves. Why? Because they understood the ramifications of lusting after other women.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's no different today because now you talk about men cleaning their browser histories. Why? Because it's not more so fearful of the kids because the kids now have their own laptops and tablets. They don't want the wife to see what they're doing because if she saw it, there was hell to pay. So
Mm-hmm.
if we're going to talk about again, now, to your point, there are those wives who said, well, hell, if we're going to see it, let's see it together. There's no need to hide it from me.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, yes, men men feel that their wives is going to consider that stepping out on the relationship because you're committed to one woman and one woman only. And we're not even going to talk about for those who go to church every Sunday. We're just talking about the
Right.
average, everyday, secular person.
Right.
So, and it would, and hell, if a man looked at his wife's laptop or computer and sees that she's surfing muscular dudes with, what,
Right.
there's hell to pay for that too. So again, for the most part, if you're asking me, and the men that I've spoken to over the years, so they consider porn, and so absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I definitely see your viewpoint of it. For me, like I said, my where I stand at it. For me, I just feel that because there was a time when um the lines weren't so blurred. People were more modest when it came to conversations of sex, when it came to anything that dealt with anything outside of the bedroom. You were not allowed to talk about it. I remember too the days of us, going to the store and you couldn't see you couldn't see, the magazines and stuff. You know what I mean? They were in plastic or whatnot. I remember those days. But now people are a little bit more freer. And I wouldn't want a guy, like I said, to be extreme with it. I wouldn't want him to be, just, all the time, every day. But if he needs it to, just bring something, because remember, there's two people in that more than likely in that flick. Usually there's two people. So, maybe he learning some new tricks. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he learning how to. Maybe a Kumasatra book ain't good, or a Kumasatra book ain't good enough for him. Maybe he learning how to do some stuff different, or whatever. You know what I mean? So for me, I just see it as okay. I see you and I got my eye on you, but I'm not worried about you. I'm not worried about what you're doing because we all handle life different. We all relieve stress differently. And because, nowadays it's so easy to access it as opposed to back in the day, that it's just like everywhere you go. Rather it's, you turn on your internet, or you walk down the street and women don't dress as covered up as we used to. You know what I mean? Like myself included. I don't cover up my chest all the way up to my neck anymore. I like to have my cleavage out. You know what I mean? That's part of my dress. So it's always there. And so I just don't see, unless I'm going to have my guy walking around with blinders on like a horse all day long. If he's going to lust after somebody, he's going to lust after them, whether I'm knowing about it or I'm not. Because the person that he's lusting over may not even be on that television. It may be somebody he worked with, or somebody that lived next door or across the street, or somebody, that we know. You know what I'm saying? So things happen all the time. And so for me, I just can't put my energy into worried about him doing that, because all that's going to do is force him to reach somewhere else. And then, to me, the way I see it, make him like, because they're responsible for themselves. But if this is something that they need every now and again, just because, and it doesn't hurt nobody, I personally don't see anything wrong with it. That's just me. And
Okay.
yeah, my relationship. But
Okay.
and I don't see it as infidelity. But like I said, I'm sure I'll get, because I've heard this discussion from women, too, where some see it as that, others don't. You know what I mean? So it's definitely will come both ways. But this is the first time that I've ever heard, and I appreciate your honesty, because this is the first time that I've ever heard a man say that they think that it is. You know what I mean? So thank you for your honesty. So I'm sure the women will appreciate you for that, Ronnie. Thank you.
Well, again, and it's strange because we have to keep in mind as well that you and I are talking to a number of generations.
Yeah.
So again, there may be some men and women in their 20s and 30s listen to us, and they see this as a totally different space now,
Correct.
as opposed to people in our generation where we see that. I I'm just of the mindset personally that being exclusive with a woman is exclusive with a woman. I've thank God I've never been in a situation where I felt I need to go outside of the relationship
Mm-hmm.
for that temporary stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be, because I really take the time if I am going to be in a relationship with someone that to me, this is what to me commitment is about.
Right.
And so the commitment is in terms of that. Now, excuse me, that's not to say that if I'm driving and you see that woman walk across at the stoplight, and, she's, a, you know, a 5'7" brick house,
Right.
you don't look. I'm not going to see her and say, "I don't see that woman. I don't see that woman." I'm not going to insult my intelligence, nor am I going to set, the girlfriend sitting next to me. However, again, have just been in that mindset. I don't want to ever feel that I need to go outside of, my woman,
Yeah. Okay.
for that. So again, and there are many men who feel that as well, and then there are women. However, there are some men who say, well, look, Ron, that's a computer screen, but in the end, she stuck with me. We say, okay, brother, if that's you, and I'm not here to pass judgment. So it's an interesting conversation all the way, but overall, men
Yeah.
are like, no, that's cheating. That's
Absolutely.
cheating.
Absolutely. It was something that I was going to ask you regarding commitment. And I lost my train of thoughts just that quick. About commitment in a relationship. Oh my God, I lost my train of thoughts. But yeah, but we can keep it right now because how you start getting old and your memory, and you almost got to write stuff down and take notes because if not, you're not going to remember half the things that you talk about or you think about. So that's where I'm at right now. But it was something I was going to ask you about commitment in a relationship. Oh God, I can't remember, Ronnie, but just keep talking.
It's okay. We have many more months and years ago to have these conversations. So I'm sure it'll come up at another point. But again, ladies and gentlemen, you know, while we're just here talking, by all means, if there's something that you felt we needed to cover in this subject, we need to go back to at another time, feel free to reach out to Ronnie and Yasheka at gmail.com. That's Ronnie and Yasheka at gmail.com. I also just want to put in a plug for our website, Dating Discussions. If you want to book a consult with Yasheka or I, go to datingdiscussions.com. And also, you can also go to ronnieyasheka.com, and you will see some bio information on Yasheka as well as I. And if you want to book a consultation with her, you'll have a place that you can schedule a time with her, as well as with me. And as an added bonus, if there's something that you figure that both Yasheka and I could provide direction with, you can book some time with us as well. So with that being said, and also don't forget to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, Ronnie and Yasheka Dating Discussions. And you can also find us on Instagram. So I know that wasn't in the flow of things, but just a little shameless
You know
plug
what? No,
of
you
just
are
passing the word on. So I just want to let people know
right.
that
I'm
we
still
appreciate the support. And we do have a Patreon page as well that you can go out there if it's just buying Yasheka a cup of coffee and me a shot of tequila, or vice versa.
right.
So you can do that by all means for a little. And we have added bonus because what you will see soon is, and this is for the true adult, unfiltered, next level conversations Yashika and I will be having with our Patreon members that won't be accessible to the typical YouTube channel as well.
Because YouTube will cut us down.
Yes, yes. So yeah, we talked about this long and hard, and we really decided that
Oh,
we would
y'all
go.
need to talk about that.
Yeah, we will go to Patreon route and just and leave those kinds of discussions for the
Yeah.
adults in that space. So I just had to put that in there.
No, I appreciate it. That way we don't have to I don't have to talk about that part. And I still can't, but it was something that I was gonna ask you regarding a committed relationship. Um and it would have brought this whole thing home. And promise you I can't remember. And I guess I'm gonna have to just when I think about it, I guess I'll send you a text or have a phone call in the middle of the night and think about it. And then maybe I can edit this video and put it in the link and say, this is what I was thinking about and put it in the description because I cannot remember. But it was just about, I knew it was about, because I was looking at the word commitment versus
Okay.
infidelity. And just about relationships in general, and just the process of them all. And we talk about, just because we always want to make sure that our audience takes something away with them when they come to us, and I never, like I said before, like we've said many times before, I never want to give them the answer that we would give them if they were hiring us, right? Because we have to give them that let them figure it out from a coaching perspective or from a counseling perspective. We can't tell them we can't tell them certain things. We can't say certain things, right? But on this right here, it's almost like, okay, from your perspective as a man, from my perspective as a man, so our opinions are raw and uncut, unfiltered, right? It's what I feel in my spirit and what you feel in your spirit. And what you bring to the table is your life experiences, and I bring to the table my life experiences. And those entail relationships, those entail what you witnessed from other people, what you've experienced, what you've coached people through, what you've helped people through, and then same thing with myself. And so, and at some point, at the end of the day, like I say about all things, that when people listen to people that give relationship advice, it's all from our own perspective. There's no written book on this. One answer, you can't go to one person's channel or page and everything that they say is the Bible or the Holy Grail, because that's not what the way it is. So anybody that visits us or visit our channel, like I've said before, take what you need to take and then leave the rest behind, because it's all from our perspective, and what may work for us in our relationships or in relationships that we've had may not work for the next person. Same thing we talked about when we talked about the porn. You guys heard what Ronnie's perspective of it was, and then you heard my perspective of it was. It may not work in your relationship. Your relationship may be totally different than ours. You both may feel that it's not prohibited in your relationship, whereas that you both may agree that it's part of the relationship that you both enjoy together all the time, right? So it just depends on what you desire in your relationship, but it starts with communication, no matter what, and no matter how much gender, and I won't say which one, don't like to talk. You have to have the conversations, right? And it don't have to be long and drawn out. It can be, talk about something here, 5 minutes, talk about it, pick it up in another date, talk about it some more tomorrow, change it up a little bit, when you're having, after a shower or while one person's in the bathroom, yell through the door and have a conversation, just whenever you can get it in. It doesn't have to be where you sit down face to face and you gotta, sit there and drill him or her like, like they're in trouble, whatever, because then their focus is off. Then they don't want to hear it. They shut down. They're just ready for the conversation to be over. But find creative ways to talk to one another so that you can get on the same accord. And that's going to be your key to a healthy and prosperous relationship. Because everything else, no matter what we say, no matter what type of advice or opinion we give, it's not going to matter if you guys are on two separate roads going in two separate directions. None of it will matter. And that's my soapbox, Ronnie.
That's good. Well, no, and I agree. I think one of the challenges couples have is that they believe that they only need to have the conversation one time. And I'm here to tell you, you're setting yourself up for disaster. There's just things that you have to revisit. And again, even with the number of years I've been in this space, there are times when you think you've heard it all, once in a while, someone comes along and totally blows you out of the water. Now, for the most part, if you listen to every couple, they all think that their particular situation is unlike anything other. And you know what? Okay, let me hear you out. Let me hear what you have to share. And in many cases, it's not, but it's okay. You know, we share things accordingly. There are times when on my platforms, I mention stats and figures. And based on where a person is in their life, they can give a rat's ass about what the stats say. And, I can bury people in just the things that I read. But what it does for me is it helps me gauge, you know, the trends of where we're going. Because the truth is, dating has evolved. Now, again, the conversation many are having now is whether it's trending for the better or for worse. One of the challenges that we have is that really I think there's just so many choices. Now a woman could just swipe left, swipe, 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 swipe. And in a state where a person may be having challenges in focus, they end up swiping and landing on the wrong man or woman. So I can assure you, Yasheka, I am committed to this platform. I'm committed to you and what we're doing here. And it's going to be great, and I'm committed to the audience that's tuning in every week. So whether it's for the Women Talk Mondays or the Man Talk Mondays, I'm committed not just to the men, but also to the women hearing what we're doing here. So
Okay. And
thank
before
you.
we go, I have a riddle. It's a true story, but I have a riddle. And then maybe we need to implement this of experiences that we've known of or been a part of, or we've had people to chit chat with us. So I had um someone that worked for me, um a woman. She was married, and so at some point, um, her and her husband decided to bring another woman into the relationship as a threesome. So this is not to be solved here. Leave the comment down below. What do you think? Was that did she commit? My question is, was this infidelity? But leave it in the comments, and then you guys tell me what do you think about this? Because I would love to hear people's opinion about this, and yours too, Ronnie. But anyway, her and her husband decided to bring a third person to the bedroom, which was a woman. And so after a while, everything was going good. So at first the wife was resistant about it. She didn't want a third person. Of course, it was his idea. It would spice up their marriage. They had a child, and it would spice up their marriage. It would bring them closer. They could try new things, whatever. So finally, the wife agreed to it. So they brought this woman into the room with them, and then it was something that went on for a while. So after a while, it started getting lesser and lesser where the woman wasn't coming in as much. As a matter of fact, whenever they would call her, she would always make excuses. Whenever the man would call her to tell her to come over, she would make excuses as to why she couldn't come. So finally, one day, he found out that the wife and her was going behind his back and hooking up. So he came to me to tell me about the fact that they were hooking up behind her back. So I'm thinking he's coming to tell me, hey, my wife is messing around on me. And I'm like, well, sir, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to tell them to stop messing around with them without including me.
Well,
So that was his concern. He didn't care. He wanted to be included. So tell me in the comments, was that infidelity? Was that cheating? What was it? Because tell me in the comments, and I'll leave that there, and then leave it in the comments what y'all think about that story. That's a true story, promise.
that will be something for the folks, and it will be interesting to see the comments for that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this has been a great one, and again, this is our series. He said, she said, and this was commitment and versus infidelity. And so next week it'll be something new. And so make sure that you let us know that you were here. Leave a comment, let us know. Make sure, like Ronnie said, like, share, and subscribe to our channel and turn your notifications so you'll know when we post a new video or go live. And we will see you guys next week.
Have a wonderful week, everybody. See you next week.
Good night.